Warframe, Warframe, Warframe. It's the big port from Panic Button. It's coming to Switch sometime soon, and it's elicited quite a response. But how do we feel about this one, Gabe? The game has a very large player base. It has grown and improved as the years go on, and it adds to what seems like an initiative to include more free-to-play, online-focused games on the Switch. Are you excited?
Yes and no. I'm excited for the prospect of a very popular game that's been out for quite some time. I think it was originally released in 2013 on some platforms. That's kind of crazy to think that this game is that old and it's still thriving in the way it is. It was recently the top viewed game on Twitch, and of course there was like an event going on for it, so that kind of makes sense. But still, the fact that it has that type of pull is really cool. So just having that added to the Switch library, I'm automatically happy about. But the way it's happening, I feel very mixed about, if I'm honest. We have been getting used to crossplay on Nintendo Switch, right? Rocket League did it, Fortnite did it, we had Paladins have some of that going on as well. Now Warframe is not doing it whatsoever. It is a Panic Button port, so I do expect the game to run well, because Panic Button has proven that they are able to bring very pretty graphically intensive games to the platform with some crazy degrees of success. So seeing Warframe on there, it's probably going to run well, but I just wish it was crossplay, honestly.
Now, crossplay is something that is not being incorporated in any of the versions. This isn't like a Nintendo taking a weird stance.
Yes,
in fact,
correct.
Earlier today at their shareholder meeting, they said that they support that, and obviously it's a game by game, publisher by publisher, case by case basis, but that they like doing that, and they've included that with recent titles, as you mentioned. I think a couple things that have made the announcement a little less clear is when is the release date? What does soon mean? Is it are we going to play it this holiday season? I mean, I assume so, right? I feel like this is something that probably gets unveiled at the next Direct in terms of a launch date. But the other aspect is how does it handle being played offline, since that's something that is not a part of Warframe normally? How do they mess with that? Is that a thing that you can do, or is it an online only thing? And to me, that's the most.
It has to be online only, dude.
So you are required to have an online connection. Yeah,
I mean, you are for Paladins, you are for
true.
Fortnite. I mean, Paladins, I guess you can maybe do bots and stuff, but Fortnite, you're not playing that when you're not online. So
yeah, and I guess that then sort of, to me, the more interesting thing is this initiative to bring these free to play, to bring these online focused games to a platform that doesn't always have online. And it's something that early on I think we discussed, oh, that's not probably the route they'll go, and yet that's the route they're going. I guess for me specifically, I'm not the biggest fan of Warframe. I have tried it multiple times, when I saw sort of hype building and a groundswell, wow, it's gotten a lot better. It's really not for me. I guess I was kind of disappointed that Panic Button, this is what they were doing, just because they were so effective with Wolfenstein 2, and I think both of us were so impressed by that game. I wanted them to tackle something, I guess, more modern, and I know you don't believe this, Gabe, but to me it just seems like Nintendo is making such a push to be modern, to be hip, and to sort of really make a play for the kids, the fans, the audience that want games as services, that want online experiences, that want heavy-duty multiplayer-focused fun, and that is where I guess I look to say, okay, this is interesting, and it's definitely a development for Switch that I did not expect.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I don't believe it. I just don't know how much of it is Nintendo. I feel like it's probably just the publishers that want to be on the platform that's doing well, and Nintendo's like, hey, sure. I don't know that Nintendo's going over to Panic Button and the creators of Warframe and saying, hey, guys, we really want this game on the platform. Can you guys make it happen? I mean, maybe it is.
Right.
I mean, we have no idea. But
yeah,
Fortnite being on Switch, I feel like that's epic. They want it on every platform available. That's more a them thing. I get it. It makes sense. There are all these free-to-play, online-focused games coming to Switch. We can't ignore that. There is a pattern of it, clearly. But I just don't know if it's Nintendo going out of their way to make it happen, or them just being very welcoming to, these popular games. And sure, come on our platform. That's my only point with that.
I guess regardless of if it's Nintendo-induced or just, like you said, publisher-created, it's clear that getting a lot of the major third-party games is not happening right now for Switch. As far as we know, I'm fully open to a great September Direct that unveils some incredible third-party support. But as of right now, that's not really as big of a thing as we hope. But what is a bigger thing than we hoped is this initiative, right? Whoever it's initiated by, it's clear that, hey, you're going to be able to play Paladins, Fortnite, Warframe, and probably more as time goes on, Arena of Valor, things of that sort, on your Switch. Even if you're not able to play Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty, like, they are finding ways to capture large player bases, and I guess that's maybe in some ways even a smarter move. I never really thought of it that way, but now that I verbalize it, it's like, okay, honestly, getting the Fortnite, Paladins, Warframe audiences probably way more important and probably way more beneficial long term than getting the Assassin's Creed audience or the Call of Duty audience.
Yeah, Digital Extremes has done like an amazing job of like cultivating this audience. That's way bigger than any of us think it is. Like, a lot of people still play Warframe. It's not a game that's super prevalent, right? You don't see it mentioned like super often. At least I don't. Maybe other people do. But it's ever present. People still play every time that they're having like a big expansion or some event. Like, the game has a resurgency. People dive back in. I've tried it on PC a few times. I have friends that have played 100 hours of it, and they said, hey, are you gonna play it on Switch? I said, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely gonna give it a try, and that's where I wanted to go with this. I'm gonna ask you, I know you've given it a try a couple times. You said it wasn't for you. Is it being on Switch gonna maybe help you, give it a little bit more of a chance, see how you like it on there? Or do you feel like, hey, I know what Warframe is, it's fantastic that it's on Switch, but maybe it's just not for me?
I'm going to go with the latter, and I would say one of the biggest factors in me giving a game a second chance usually is the portability factor, and because this is online only, that greatly hampers that. Right, so, I was super excited and waiting for Hollow Knight on Switch, even though I could have played it on PC a year ago, because I wanted to take it on the go wherever I was. And if that was the case, maybe I would be more inclined to play Warframe. It just doesn't seem like it's something that, like, if I'm blunt, this is a ported version of a game I've already played, and there's no added feature / incentive, right? Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, speaking of features, like, I don't know if they were, maybe more clear on this on anything other than the trailer. I don't think they were, but I wonder, like, how up-to-date this version is going to be. Like, are they going to try to keep it on par with everything else and try to do updates and things like that at the exact same time? Like, who knows? That's something that I'm sure we'll get more information on. And if you guys have information, feel free to let me know in the comments below. But based off the trailer alone, like, all they said is, like, hey, it's coming, and coming soon.
Right.
Like, it's so weird that they didn't say, like, oh, it's coming this year, or oh, it's coming next year. Like, something's amiss with that, by the way. I'm very curious why they aren't giving any details, really.
I'll go back to what I mentioned at E3, which is that I think Nintendo feels, maybe more so than any other current console, platform holder, that they want to be the bearer of good news. And I think they really like to sort of set the tone and, announce, look, last year we got, and you could say, oh, Bethesda, took a different route this year by talking about Fallout Shelter and talking about Elder Scrolls Legends, but the ports of Wolfenstein 2 and Doom were not a part of Bethesda's E3 conference last year. Yes, they were mentioned before the Direct, but it seems like Nintendo almost like has a guiding hand in how these things are conveyed, and that could be complete conjecture on my part, but it feels like they want to lead the narrative. I will say, Warframe at TennoCon showed some pretty intriguing content that had fans very excited in terms of this, like, space combat and a lot of the new features that they are bringing to the game. Seamless transition between on foot and, flight, things of that stuff. Is that coming to Switch? Is it going to be behind? We have seen Paladins and Fortnite do a pretty good job of, like, keeping it level, like a level playing field.
Yeah, I mean, the updates that are coming to Fortnite, they're happening on Switch as well. The Playgrounds mode that was happening, that's like a timed event type thing, like, that was on Switch just like it was on everything else. So I feel like that's super important. If they nail this, I could honestly see myself getting into this a bit, because one of the biggest things that stops me from playing Warframe now is the fact that everybody's, like, so amazing at it, right? It's a loot-based game. It's a very online multiplayer. It's Ninjas in Space for anyone that doesn't know. But it's hard to dive into when there's already so many people that are like miles and miles ahead of you, just like level-wise and experience-wise. But on Switch, everyone's going to be on an even playing field at first. So if there's going to be a time to jump on, this is going to be it. And it is a game that I think I could like. It's a loot-based, very Destiny-style game. Of course, the gameplay might not necessarily be like Destiny. It's third person. But yeah, I'm very excited to actually give this a try.
And I think the fact that it's not crossplay gives them the opportunity and the excuse to not include the same updates, or to say it'll eventually reach that point. You know, Fortnite and Paladins need to be up to date, otherwise that crossplay and that online community doesn't work. So that's like, you know, really imperative there. It's not so much with Warframe because there is no, you know, interactivity between the consoles. So it'll be really curious to see how that is handled. It's probably not for me. It sounds like it might be for you, but it definitely is for a lot of people, and this is a surprise. This is a welcome addition, and I think it does start to shape the narrative of Nintendo how the Switch integrates with other consoles and multi-platform releases. It doesn't seem to be so much with the traditional Call of Duties, the Battlefields, the Assassin's Creeds, things of that sort, the Maddens, but it is with these games that are day by day continuing to increase in strength, become the biggest things in the world, and really kind of sort of lay the new path forward for the gaming industry. So in some cases, it's great that Nintendo is at the forefront of that. You know, they are with the popular trends in those ways. Maybe not in some other ways. Maybe they're backwards in how they handle a few other things. But let us know your take in the comments down below. Are you pumped for Warframe? Are you glad this is Panic Button's port? Do you think that Nintendo is making a concerted effort to grab these free-to-play multiplayer, you know, driven titles, or is it just coincidence? Is it what works on the system? To me, it seems eerily coincidental that they have all of these kind of all at the same time and all around the launch of the online service, and maybe that factors in as well. But let us know your take in the comments down below, everybody. Warframe hitting Switch sometime. We'll let you know the release date once we find it out. So subscribe to stay up to date on that and everything else Switch. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Discord. We got links in the description below. And until next time, for myself and Gabe, Switch Force out.